have launched a series of articles and thought pieces from leaders, academics and influencers on the current crisis. Leadership through COVID is designed to provide insight into current and future responses and how creative and entrepreneurial approaches have been adopted. Today we've been joined by three very busy people from Salford University, and I'd like to welcome Helen Marshall, Vice-Chancellor, Jo Purves, who's Pro-Vice-Chancellor for International and Regional Partnerships, and Karen Stansfield, who's Associate Dean of Enterprise Engagement. I mean, Salford has gone through significant change anyway over the last few years, as it focuses all its activity across teaching, research and enterprise on industry collaboration. This single strategic priority has been designed so they provide a real world approach to learning with a curriculum that has been co-designed with industry. The university offers hands-on work-based learning experience and also faces towards industry that wishes to engage in applied research and recruit work-ready dynamic graduates. With the university positioned as it is, this interview looks at how Salford and its team have responded and also will respond in the future. I suppose, Helen, the first question for me is, in responding to the pandemic, what's been your primary concerns?
Well, thank you for inviting us. Our primary concerns when all of this happened was the welfare of our staff and students, and making sure that they were put into a place and a space where their health and safety came paramount and that we looked after them. But also recognising that as students were approaching the final term, for many of them, the final term of their whole degree, and for others, the final term of their academic year, that they had a lot of stress and pressure around completing the year. So our concern and the concern of our staff was to ensure that we had a means by which the students could complete the academic year and do that in a very credible way. So we've managed to do that. The staff have been magnificent. They stepped up at incredibly short notice, having to sort of march off campus with their computer under their arm and go and start working from home in a very, very different way, in a very different environment. Sam Grogan, our PVC student experience, has led the work to put the last few weeks of teaching online, and then to get assessment, working with our registrar to get assessment online. And we've managed to do that across the piece. So students can progress from year to year, or they can graduate this summer as would be expected, albeit in what we call now business as unusual, business as usual. So that's been fantastic. We've had to help students along the way, because things like paying fees for the final term of their student accommodation on campus has been challenging for them. So the university has stepped up where it can and has fulfilled the obligation to pay those fees for students. We've increased hardship funds for students who are finding it hard because their part-time job in the pub has suddenly gone, or their part-time job wherever has suddenly gone. So all of that, we've worked really, really hard to help our students. And we're looking now at future scenario planning for back to term next autumn, to give our students the best possible experience that we can. Staff have been amazing. Their learning curve on online teaching has been like Mount Everest for some of them, but they have really stepped up into the space, and we've put a good offer down for the rest of this year, and we've put we're in the process of putting a face-to-face model with appropriate technology support to support distance learning down for next term, and we're well on the way with that. One of the most important things, though, that we've kept really tight on as a senior team is our major strategic work that we're doing around industry collaboration, because this will end. And when we come out of this, Salford will be raring to go, not, oh, right, we're out of it, what do we do next? So areas like Greater Manchester Institute for Advanced Technical Skills, which is a big project we're working on, which is a pipeline of Industry 4.0, really industry focused skilled graduates. Our Robotics Maturation Centre, we've just got funding for that, getting that on the ground. Our Energy House too, getting that on the ground to actually power industry going forward with much more green economy, with Industry 4.0 ways of working. We've kept all those projects live. The senior team, goodness knows how they're getting through the work, because the workload will have basically doubled, have been amazing in delivering the goods. So not only are we looking after and keeping people safe, we want to then look after and keep the economy safe as we come out of this, so that we can really make a big impact.
Brilliant, thank you. I mean, Karen, I've seen an awful lot of coverage as well about how you've been currently supporting your local city and people during this crisis. Would you like to just outline some of that?
Yes, of course. I think following on from what Helen has said, throughout this crisis, we've been doing what we always do, really, which is working with partners, which is so fundamental to the business that we do at Salford, both locally and regionally, to have a positive impact and address those real world challenges and play our part in responding to this crisis. So we're very proud at Salford to be a civic university, and this is in some ways just an extension of our industry collaboration ethos that we're already working to every day in every way throughout the university and schools. So I guess some specific examples, Kerry, would be around, obviously we are one of the largest providers of NHS education in the Northwest, particularly around nursing, allied health professionals. So we've been focusing very much on supporting the NHS through this crisis. This has meant mobilising a significant number of students, both nursing and midwifery, allied health professionals. Also our counselling and psychotherapy staff have played a role into the workforce in the NHS, but particularly nursing because of the volume of students that we have and the response to the Nurse Midwifery Council, emergency standards and the work that's gone across Salford and Greater Manchester. We've really had an impact, working closely with our senior leaders in those trusts as well. One of the key things we're really proud of, and which was fantastic for staff morale, because as you can imagine, coming from a health school and social care, a lot of our staff were really keen to do as much as possible to support the NHS. So we were delighted to be able to deliver the training for staff at the new NHS Nightingale Northwest in Manchester, which we started on Good Friday, would you believe, and did the induction with the staff, because we thought it was really important that our staff were able to share in that what was a new venture for everybody. I think we had basically a call on the Tuesday, and by Friday we're at the induction, and Saturday we're delivering the training at the Mary Seacole building, where we were able, with our estate staff as well, who did a fantastic job, because obviously we had to consider safety and social distancing, and in a very short space of time we had so many staff volunteer who wanted to be part of that. So we had about 13, 14 staff coming in on the Saturday, and then we've run those every week since. And in fact it was really apt that it was Florence Nightingale's birthday, and on Tuesday we had our last session with the staff for the training. Along with that, we've donated tens of thousands of pieces of PPE to our local hospital. I think the other areas in the university really need to mention as well the fantastic work the Makerspace, the on-campus 3D print facility, has produced around 4,000 visors donated to our local hospitals and other health and care facilities across Greater Manchester and the wider Northwest. As I mentioned earlier, our counselling service and staff, our psychotherapy training, was called upon by the Northern Care Alliance to provide training and counselling for foundation year doctors and other clinical staff who are dealing with COVID-19 and some of the impact for them psychologically. We've been doing that remotely and very safely, but very effectively. Other areas, acoustic testing of ventilator parts, learning of a testing machine to run tests for the virus at a government testing centre. As you see, the list goes on. Staff volunteering to work in testing centre in Cheshire to support the testing effort. And I guess finally, the other areas as well I wanted to just mention were, we've also provided technical support to the United We Stream initiative, which is a new nightly live music streaming service that has been set up to support the hospitality and leisure sectors. So live music venues and other cultural assets, as you know, is massive in Greater Manchester. And this has already raised over £250,000. So really proud of that input from all our staff and students. And where safe to do so, our commercial units have been supporting industry and keeping going throughout this crisis. So, for example, our archaeological unit continues to undertake site surveys to allow construction sites to continue to operate. So I guess having gone through all those different aspects, I'm absolutely realising the points Helen made about how much our staff have actually given and why we're probably all feeling that impact at the moment. But absolutely great that we can keep things going for our students and partners.
I don't know how to follow that, actually. It was just such a, I mean, you've outlined, how much of an outward-facing organisation in university you are. And, Karen, then when you just talked about it's been an extension, a huge extension, I think, but an extension. And so, Jo, I was just wondering about the future. And will anything change? I mean, you're already outwardly facing, but do you think local engagement for you will change after this? You're on mute. Jo?
You're mute, Jo.
On mute.
Obviously, somebody had to say you're on mute at some point. That is the catchphrase.
I was trying to say quietly, I don't know.
It's teamwork, Jo.
So what I said before was really, really impactful, but now I forgot what it was. No, seriously, I think what we're doing is we're looking at the short term, the medium term, the long term. What we're not changing is our contact with industry. I think that has been why we have been supporting the community so much during this, is because we were a first point of call for the GMCA and the local industries when they needed assistance during this. So we've had the immediate assistance that we've given. Now we're starting to look towards what is the immediate post-recovery and how can we help the economy. And what we're looking at, we've already been asked by the local authority in terms of what can we do to help particularly SMEs in areas like automation, to enable them to build back social distancing into their production lines and whatever they do. So that is going to be a precursor. Helen mentioned that we've received funding for what we're calling the Robotics Maturation Hub. But before that is built, we will already be starting to look at how we help triage some of that automation process for local industries. There is a campaign, the devolved authorities are running a campaign about Build Back Better, which is capitalising on, I think there's a lot of public sentiment now around we want to see the benefits of a green recovery. People have become used to less pollution. We're not so happy with public transport at the moment and feeling safe about that. What can we do to make sure that what we come back to is a better, more sustainable version of what we had? So things like our Energy House 2 and Smart Living will be working on that. But that is all, it's continuing working with the industries that we've got, but I think actually we're seeing potentially a change in the demands that they're coming to us with, because people's mindsets have changed about what the future might look like slightly. And then longer term, we have to think about what are the longer term effects of this going to be on the economy. Yeah. Does it look different? What can we do to support business with things like their digital skills? And everybody's working from at home. What are the next developments in that going to be? So there's quite a lot of work. The world is changing and will change as a result of this, but the way we work, I don't think will. It's just the levels of what research and enterprise we do.
Thanks, Jo. I mean, that's interesting, isn't it? Because you're talking about mindsets have changed, so obviously the responses will change. And so, Helen, I suppose just finally, I wanted to come to, as a sector, what do we need to take away from this? What do we need to learn from this into the future?
If I was able to have a conversation with Gavin Williamson right now, I would say to him, yes, we're a sector, But within that sector, we have universities with different characteristics. We have fantastic universities. I mean, if you look at Oxford and Imperial and the work they're doing on a vaccine for COVID, so we have fantastic universities with fantastic world-leading research. We have universities that have huge medical and nursing departments that are providing frontline skilled professionals for the NHS. We have universities like Salford who are, I mean, one of our rules at Salford is we are demand-led. We listen to industry, we develop our curriculum and our research and our enterprise work in terms of what industry needs, not what academics want to do. So we're very much outward facing and outward looking. We have universities, and Salford again is one of them, that we are absolutely committed to bringing through young people from disadvantaged backgrounds and giving them a road and a pathway to a fantastic and exciting future. So again, socially deprived areas, Salford is very much in that space. Now, that's not a single university, that's a sector. And how does the government sit down and say, okay, so this is our strategy, this is our policy going forward, and which particular part or parts of this policy do universities fit into, and recognise the strengths of the universities as a collective to deliver that strategy for government in the post-COVID arena. It's going to be a very challenging decade. The economic consequence of this won't go away in 1, 2, 3 years. We're going to be the best part of a decade before we see our way through this, looking at the numbers. And how can universities power the UK into a new way of thinking about the economy? So when we started worrying about our supply chain of PPE for our frontline health workers, one of the reasons for that was that the manufacturing capacity in the UK for that kind of kit and equipment simply wasn't there. And we were importing this from across the other side of the globe for most parts. Now, going forward, do we want to rethink about the economy in the UK and actually restart our manufacturing, our advanced manufacturing and things like that in terms of the supply chain? Talking to colleagues at a large, very large communications telecoms company where they have their call centre in India, which has had to shut down. And their ability to get that started again is completely out with their control because it's another country, it's another government's ruling, etc., etc. So again, rethinking about, well, what are the skills we need in this post-COVID world? And I think if government is wise, it will actually start to see the opportunities and the real strengths that the university sector brings to the table. But it's not one strength and we're not one type of university. We are a sector and we have a range of fantastic things that we can deliver for this country. And I know, talking regularly at the moment via UK conferences to university vice chancellors, the sector is committed to repowering the economy and repowering people's lives. And I think government will miss an opportunity if it doesn't come back with that message.
Brilliant. Thank you. Does anyone else want? Joe, Karen?
No, I don't think I've got anything extra to add to that, Karen.
No, I just think that what's Helen's saying is that what we're doing at Salford is seeing those opportunities, because although there are lots of challenges, what's great is that real can-do opportunity focus as well. So we're having people approaching as well from the local hospitals for looking for solutions. So the PPE equipment's very bulky, it's very difficult to wear in hot temperatures. So can we at Salford help them design something better? And I think we'll see more and more of that sort of desire to innovate in different ways. And then coupled with what Helen was saying about, then it comes back to, well, where's the manufacturing industries to provide that?
Yeah. Thank you all, Helen, Joe and Karen, so much for your time today. I've learned again an awful lot about what's going on in Salford. I'm exhausted by the amount of activity that's going on, but so exciting. And actually, I think that just does give us hope for the future, really, and, you know, an exciting future and opportunities that there could be. So thank you once again for your time today, and thank you everyone for watching.